So you're probably wondering what the Three Passes trek is. Well, it's a circuit trek through the Everest region of Nepal. You actually cover 3 valleys and you go over 3 high passes at around about 5,500 meters. And the views are incredible, and the nice thing is the standard Everest base camp trek that everyone does is a slight detour off this trek. So when you're doing the 3 passes, you get to see what everyone else sees, but you see a whole lot more because you're covering the 3 valleys, you're crossing glaciers, you're walking over passes, absolutely beautiful places. So let's have a look on our map. So this is a map of the whole trek. The passes are marked in red at the top, and you start at the bottom at Lukla Airport. So on the first day we slept in a town called Bangkar. Then we made it to Namche Bazaar. On day 3 we did an acclimatization hike above Namche. Then you start heading into higher altitude, first to Tengboche, then Dingboche, and then Chukung. The following day you climb over Kongmala Pass to Lobuche. Then comes the Everest Base Camp detour, which takes about a day. Then you walk all the way back through Lobuche to a town called Zongla. The following day you cross Chola Pass. Most people try to make it all the way to Gokyo. We stopped in a town called Dragnag because it was just getting dark. From there it's only a 2-hour walk across the glacier to Gokyo, which we did the next day. After Gokyo follows the 3rd and final pass, we walk to a town called Lungden. From there it's all downhill for 19 kilometers back to Namche Bazaar. We did it in a day. Finally another 19 kilometers downhill gets you back to Lukla to fly out the next day. Firstly, altitude sickness. So this is caused by lack of oxygen as your altitude rises. So at 5,000 meters, there's only half as much oxygen available as you're probably used to at around sea level. It takes a couple of days for your body to sort of readjust your blood composition to account for this. So anyone can get altitude sickness. Being fit doesn't really reduce your chances. So you can't just land in Lukla and run up to 5,000 meters because you have to take it slow. So there are a couple of things you can do to prevent altitude sickness. So firstly, it only starts above 3,000 meters. Secondly, once you leave 3,000 meters, you have to sleep lower than your maximum altitude for the day. So it's recommended to sleep about 300 meters below your max altitude. Now, don't raise your altitude more than about, well, they say 500. We did 800 meters on some days, and you don't really want to raise it too much more than that. Thirdly, drink a lot of water. So we drank at least 3 liters of water every day, and the more you drink, the better it is. And also, don't drink alcohol because it dehydrates you, so it completely defeats the purpose of drinking more water. So some of the symptoms you'll see are headaches, you can't sleep, you might vomit, you'll feel tired. These are sort of the milder symptoms. I had that on a couple of days, but when it gets more severe, you start seeing things like breathlessness, there's confusion, disorientation, your skin may turn blue, all due to lack of oxygen. So your body's just struggling to get enough oxygen in there. So if you do start seeing any of the symptoms, especially the severe ones, the only thing you can really do is descend. So you have to get down about 500 meters. So you might walk down to the nearest village that's 500 meters lower, preferably with someone, because people do actually get disoriented and lost because of the altitude sickness. So the key thing is medication doesn't help. You can't just take a pill and make altitude sickness go away. Your body has to adjust, and it has to adjust at a lower altitude. You can take ibuprofen, Panadol, and Diamox to sort of reduce some of the symptoms. Maybe if it's less severe, you might stick it out. But if you start seeing any of the severe symptoms, definitely just descend and come back the next day. Food. So don't eat meat. That's That's the main advice. So you'll see porters carrying meat on their backs. You can smell the meat as they pass you. It's pretty gross. There's no fridges, and they're carrying this stuff for days. By the time it gets there, who knows what's in there. So pretty much after Namche Bazaar, you should stick to local foods, so which are all vegetarian. So dal bhat, Sherpa stew, and they've got many different forms of pasta, noodle dishes. Just stick to those. Also, stuff on the table, like tomato sauces and things, try to avoid them. Definitely check for use by dates. I've seen bottles of jam that were 2 years out of date and looked really gross. I actually probably got sick from tomato sauce I put on my macaroni and cheese one night. I was just sick of not having any flavor, and I smeared it on there, and it tasted really spicy and weird. And sure enough, the next day I had diarrhea, I had a fever all day, I had no energy. So it's definitely a thing to look out for.